And there it is, and we're live. Welcome everybody to your favorite weekly series, Grace Under Pressure, where we feature royal consorts from around the known world. This week is Duchess. Damn, I
Esabell.
swear, Esabell.
Esabell.
Okay, so I kept saying it wrong, and I kept tripping over it, and now I got into my own head. So this week is Duchess Esabell Granta of Artemisia. Next week we had Duchess Patricia Blakethorn. Almost got me on that one too, of the West.
Yes,
She was queen
very
when we
good.
were too.
She's lovely and she's very excited. And she's also an enormous Supernatural fan. So I'm hoping we can work in some Supernatural trivia perhaps into
So
the
we need to have like that reign Duchess's Gishwaz's team.
Interesting.
I think everybody should
Because
just
that
get
is a
together.
supernatural thing.
That's interesting. We could
Nisha
talk about that.
Collins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
I've never seen Supernatural. I admit it.
I mean, it does not sustain itself through the entire series, but
The last, yeah, there were a couple of seasons that were rough, but I can honestly say I've seen them all.
I can also say that for a while, I'm sorry, we're totally off here, but on Netflix and other places where you were watching them in reruns, they weren't using the original music because it's all like awesome 70s rock. It's the best. It's the best music. But in syndication, I don't know if it was a licensing issue or what it was, but they were putting in other music. And you're like, I'm pretty sure this was a Blue Oyster Cult song being used in this scene. And now it's like some weird random rock band, but the music's back. So when you watch the episodes now on Netflix, they are the original 70s rock again. So anyway, on that note, welcome to Sir Joel de Grace, now of Callantyre, not the Outlands, as I said previously. I apologize. He has lived in the Outlands. He's also lived in North Shield and some of the A kingdoms, and is also
here.
is also inspired by his lady Aniela, who also starts with an A. And he is fueled by generally questionable discount adult beverages. What are you sporting today?
Actually, this week is sponsored by Flavor Pack number 3 of White Claws.
Oh, yeah. I actually have to say, so I'm drinking something that I got at Trader Joe's, which is this cherry hard seltzer. And I was like, well, maybe it won't taste like cough syrup because sometimes they do when they're cherry flavored. But this one, it's interesting, but it's really bitter, like way more bitter than I can usually drink. So I had to add a little something to it. So I think it's for people who like bitter things. I don't like bitter things. So I am plenty bitter. I bring the bitter. I don't add any. So anyway, thanks for sharing your shame, Joel.
Not a shame. There's no shaming here, except when there is. But as always, I'm joined by my favorite person who she heckles just right, Duchess Dagmar. She's a Viscountess of Sinago in the West, a Duchess Von Tier. She's also a Laurel, and she's just kind of an all-around badass.
Badass. We would like to extend a special thank you to Rifkin and Ashaxi for hosting us on the Sisters Interview Network. We really appreciate everything they do to keep these interviews going. For the last year, it's been sort of a lifeline for a lot of people who wanted to be able to participate in the SCA, but really couldn't for lots of reasons, but also just having all that work done on our behalf as a society. It's really, really special. So we appreciate it so much. And Joel, would you please introduce our guest to everyone?
Oh, absolutely. So everybody watching from home, thank you so much for joining us. You know how much we appreciate your time. This week, we are joined by Duchess Esabell. I swear I'm not doing that on purpose, y'all. Names always trip me up. I promise I'm going to keep trying to get better at this.
Names do trip them up. It's true.
It's not. I know it can be rude, and I really do apologize for anyone watching. I'm trying. But Duchess Esabell reigned in Artemisia in 2006, also in 2011. She was recognized as a Laurel in 2007, and also as a Pelican in 2009. Your Grace, thank you so much for joining us. It's so good to see you, and you look amazing tonight.
That's so nice. That's how he makes up for not saying your name correctly. And in Joel's defense, normally he's just calling people by their titles. So
He's allowed to call me Your Grace. Hey, you. It works.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
thank you so much, Esabell, for joining us tonight. As we both know, we met at Penzic. We were both queen at Penzic. And that was super fun. And I had an instant affinity with you because you are a goofball and
I seem
but
to
yet
remember we had a finger puppet thing going at one point.
there were some things happening, and there were also but also someone who was able to switch and treat your station with the dignity that the people that are looking up to you are expecting. So I really appreciate that a lot. And Penzic, that's a great place to be queen. It's the only time I've ever been to Penzic. It was really enjoyable, and people like you really aided in that. So I really appreciate you being here tonight. We usually like to start with asking people about their SCA origins, and just to find out a little bit about how you ended up in the SCA and who you are.
So my SCA origin story is I went to the mall in 1984. And then I think it was Milord Edward Drachenfeld and his lady Zahara and Mike and Cheryl and Jill and Jim and Dory and Dennis, and I think that may have been the entire incipient Shire of 1000 Eyes they were looking for members. And I thought, oh, this looks like it could be an awful lot of fun. And so it was my freshman year of high school, and a crew of us, there were about 4 teenagers who just all started playing all at the same time, and we were all about the same age. And so they had this crew of unaccompanied minors. And we proceeded to cause trouble, as only teenagers can. And so I was in Thousand Eyes until I graduated from high school, and then I went to Lochsallen. At the time, we were all Aytenvelt, and actually, when I first, very, 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 very first started, we were Outlands, but then Outlands broke off, and we got left in Aytenvelt. And so I went to Lochsallen for college, and then I went to Cleftlands in Middle, and played in Cleftlands for grad school. And there I took a brief trip to Caerta and lived there for a little while. And in Atlantia, I lived in Farfanugan. I lived in North Carolina. The entire state is one barony. And then I stopped playing, and I was in the DC metro area for 5 years and married to a guy who really wasn't into the SCA. And then I moved to Calafia, and I started in the SCA again. And then I came back, and Artemisia was a thing. And when I'd left, we hadn't been a principality very long, and when I came back, we were a kingdom. And so I came back about not quite 20 years ago, playing in Calafia, and then I would drive the 1,000 miles to 1000 Eyes for Uprising, which is kind of it's the kingdom event that's not a kingdom event. It's a baronial event, and since 1000 Eyes is my hometown, I've been to almost all of the uprisings that I was playing during, and a couple that I wasn't, because it was always over Father's Day. And so I would go home for Father's Day, and the deal was I'd spend a week with my dad, but Saturday I got to go to Uprising. And so when I came back, I was back for just over a year, and Morgan won Crown Tourney, and suddenly I went from being Lady Esabell to Her Royal Highness. And things just sort of went wild after that. I had a a laurel a couple years later, and a pelican a couple years later, and another rain a couple years later. All kinds of other adventures. I've exchequered a lot. My
That's a tough
first
one.
big job in the SCA was list mistress, though, and I loved list mistress in Lochsallen. And I remember there was a coronet list for Artemisia, and it was probably like the second or third one. And Her Grace Anna and Kyrie and I lined up all of the fighters, and we had to be reprimanded, but it was fun. We had a really good time. And just imagine, we had some very famous people there. We had Brian Tarragon, and we had Shannon. I don't even know where Shannon is anymore. And we had Raphael Rogue, and we had Avalock. We had Morgan. We had Kian. There was a wide variety. It was lovely.
Of course, Kyrie and Roth live in Ontir now, which
I know.
They are such a huge part of the culture of this kingdom, and we're super fortunate to have them here. I've probably worked the most, well, Kyrie, of course, is a laurel, and I'm a laurel, but and Roth, of course, is too. But most of what I've done with Kyrie has been working on the riderless horse, because she's been a really important part of creating and cultivating that tradition in Ontir, which is, for the people who participate and who witness it, it's incredibly special. But she's also just a lot of fun, and we've been at steampunk stuff at the same time, and she does a little farming and a little, all kinds of stuff. She's like so multifaceted. So we
all went to the University of Utah. Ralph was working as a security guard part-time, and I was working in the chemistry department, so I'd run into him while he was touring campus. And Kyrie worked in the bookstore, and like there were days, because I would work late in the lab and I didn't want to go home, so I would go crash in their front room with Brindy Baby, who was one of the many amazing case hounds in their lives. But yeah, so I have to tell you that we call Ontir the Artemisian retirement kingdom, because you have some of our most wonderful humans have moved on to you. And Kyrie and Rox are only one example.
We have some Westies that have relocated up here. In general, I think this is a thing that's going to keep happening. So we're not sad about it at all. Well,
and that's why I just keep coming and playing in Ontir.
And when you're ready to retire, when you're ready to retire, just let us know. We'll hook you up with a realtor. So.
I love Ontir. Maybe we'll retire there. You never know. Well, everybody can just go there.
You haven't been stationed here yet, so.
I have not. That is very true. So you said you started playing around 84 or so, which was the year before I was born.
I may be old.
We're gonna have to have a talk.
Oh, dang it.
I'm forever telling people that I've been doing this since before they were born.
But in fairness, you were a child when you started, so
that's true. Also, yeah. Oh, you were, yeah.
No, not you.
I was
Joel.
14.
You were still a child.
All right. So, you've been playing a while before you had your first reign in 2006, which apparently led to a whole lot of shenanigans from the implied stories I was hearing earlier. What do you wish you knew before your first reign, or what, with your wealth of experience that you have now, what do you wish you knew before you had your first reign?
That it's okay to delegate. One of the very strange things about my life in Artemisia is that I was in Artemisia before we had an Artemisia, and so I knew all of the people who were here in the ancient days. And like, I remember when Viscount Robert and Viscountess Leah were the Baron and Baroness of Lochsallen, and they were just so wonderful and inspirational. And, you know, I was 15. Or Adventures with Sir William Gallowglass, fondly and forever known as Wicked Uncle Bill. And his wife, Duchess Karn. When I came back, there was this group of people who I'd known when I was a teenager and into my 20s, and they were now the super old guard. And there was this whole new batch of people who hadn't started playing until around the time I left or after I'd left. And they were like the big people on campus, I guess. They were the in group. And so there was this very strange, I didn't really know any of the really active players. And I was back for about a year, and I'm naturally kind of a shy person. So I hadn't reached out and met a whole lot of people yet. And Baroness Juliana will tell the story about how I volunteered to help with brunch at Raptor War. And what that meant was I made 200 pasties and 200 little tartlets and brought two 65-gallon coolers full of food because I did the brunch. And she came to me and she said, I don't know you from Adam, but we're going to learn a word: delegate. And she has proceeded to be my anti-pelican ever since. But you can see how well that worked.
How do you reconcile delegating with quality control? And when I can learn that, I think I'll be ready to die. It's not something I'm able to do. So
it's hard.
Yeah.
But I also I was not good at asking for help or, you know, putting together a retinue. I put together a retinue by asking each group in the kingdom to volunteer someone to be part of my retinue. And I got a lot of good friends that way. And I think that a lot of people who might not normally have served on a retinue were able to, because it wasn't just my besties, because I didn't have a bunch of besties to ask. Yeah. So it was an interesting and a different way of doing a retinue. We also didn't have, I don't think, we didn't have an official herald. So again, every group we went to, we would say, okay, who wants to be herald today? And so our that first reign was very much a kingdom project. So on one hand, I wish that I had a better ability to delegate and had a larger person base to draw from for resources and help. But at the same time, I really like the fact that we involved the entire kingdom in that reign.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm going to put on your slides here pretty soon and
Okay.
continue to ask questions while we do that. Why don't I go ahead and get them started, and then we can keep talking with you through those. Talks amongst yourselves.
Okay. Well, while she's getting that pulled up, I want to know, you know, I'm sure you have had plenty of experiences, good, bad, and indifferent. What's kind of a funny story where you may have made a hiccup in court, or you know, a learning experience that could be kind of humorous at the time?
You may have heard of Saint Esabell, who there's a variety of miracles, and occasionally I proselytize because officially I'm the abbess of Saint Esabell. And one of Saint Esabell's adventures was she was told by the queen that as a Lady of the Rose, she was not allowed to be unattended. So Esabell might be a little bit strong-minded sometimes and doesn't always like following directions. So a squire was assigned to Esabell to keep track of her. And Esabell took offense at this. So Esabell found herself in a group of people where there was one member of each of several couples, but both she and Morgan were there. And so Esabell decided that this could not stand and ran. Esabell went into a party, a brotherhood party, hid behind Fluffy for a while, decided it was rude to hide behind Fluffy, and turned around and hid in front of Fluffy, which was more social. Got caught, ran out the doorway of the Brotherhood encampment, where she was sure that there was a bridge across the ditch, but there was no bridge across the ditch. And I ditched my retinue in a ditch. And it is known as the miracle of the ditch, where the retinue was ditched with a ditch. And there's a plinth that marks the spot of the miracle of the ditch. And people leave offerings to Saint Esabell at the plinth that is the place of the miracle of the ditch.
The ditch plinth.
Yep.
It sounds like a thing, but it really isn't. I love it.
It's black granite.
That's awesome. Well, Saint Esabell, we are looking at your slides now, and I would like to point out that Kaya is actually watching, and she's
I love Kaya.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
I love everyone in that picture. This is my Antir family. I will do a lot of things for these people, and one of them is I cook breakfast with Britt there in the middle, Maeve. She and I are breakfast crew in camp most of the time. And you know, Kaya and Emmerich have always been really generous and good friends. It's just an awesome crew, and I love staying with them and camping with them and being part of their group. They're just such lovely people.
They're another household that came to Antir sort of fully formed and just fit so well into the culture here. And that's not easy to do, especially when you reign. To, you know, that you bring with you the customs, traditions, and attitudes from your previous kingdom. And some people are a lot more adept than others at being able to change kingdoms and be effective in their role as crown. And it was really a pleasure to work with them as the crown. So, and this is a great picture. So lovely. And I'm sure there's a story here.
Yes, this is the the saintly pose. This means that you are about to be blessed. No one is blessed without deserving it. This is first offered as a you might bless yourself before you just get, you know, slapped in the head.
Yeah.
So yes, so if I'm doing this, I might use the words apply forehead. And yeah, so you can see there's a stern face there. Someone deserves a blessing.
Very good.
That's that second coronation. That gown was a community effort, and unlike the first one, which I did all by myself, I allowed help on this one. But, you know, this one I did crazy things. So each of those largish gold things is a rose that I carved soapstone, and then I cast. And then Ellen, who is a wonderful human being, gold leafed them all and drilled holes in them. And then I attached them to the skirt with a variety of beads and pearls. And yeah, the number of people who are now laurels that worked on that is large. The skirt was made by brain has fallen, name has fallen out of head. Absolutely wonderful.
It happens every episode.
Right.
Something about being live on the air, like that.
I do it every week.
Names out of our.
I have ladybugs for her.
You'll think of it as soon as we sign off. Promise. That's the way it goes.
Yeah. The sleeves have garnets and pearls, and as with most things, I was working on the sleeves like 20 minutes before coronation.
Yeah. Is there another way to do it?
I
don't
made
think
all
so.
of his clothes. I always made his clothes.
Well, one of the questions I was hoping to ask you, since you have reigned twice and also have achieved recognition as a laurel and a pelican, there are lots of people who help us end up where we are, and especially help us during reigns. And was there anybody that you leaned on, especially during your reigns, that you would like to talk about?
That lovely lady in gold standing behind me,
Okay.
Saira. She is also now a pelican, but she was my head lady the second reign. They may have just moved here. Our first reign, I think they moved here during our first reign. Her husband was one of Morgan's squires. She lives down the street, literally. And could not have done second reign without Amber. She is a person whose head is so tightly and correctly screwed on. She can see appropriate paths. She knows the right thing to do. When I was losing it, she could figure out what to do. And so, yeah, Amber was key.
Well, be sure to give us the correct spelling of her name and her address so we can send her real estate listings in on tier. I'm just saying, she sounds like a keeper, so
Oh yes, she's a keeper. The first reign. That dress I made all by myself. I kid you not, there's close to 25 yards of that gold and black silk you're looking at. His coat, I think, is 10 yards, and that skirt is 12 yards. Just the skirt is 12 yards of silk. It has a train. I don't know what I was thinking. There are 14 small animals sewn onto that dress. Those tails are actual animals. And then the butter silk dress, that was another big thing. I based that dress off of a 1585 coronation of Margaret of Scotland, doing it in a very similar way, using 15th century silks in a 12th century pattern. The gold dress is based on the pattern woven from the earth, with the multi-gore. Mm-hmm. and so that was when I left Atenvelt. I was on the Pelican path, and when I came back, I decided that I wanted to be on the Laurel path. So I started actually, doing a lot of research and trying really hard to actually make good costumes. There are no good pictures of the front of that dress, but there are jeweled plackets going down the front. There's I think about $2,000 worth of gold and jewels sewn onto the silk on the front of that dress.
Yeah.
I'd sold a house in California and I had some spare change. The judging. So for the last 10 years, probably, at a lot of events, this is what you find me doing. My last event, which was Acorn War, I was judging. So this was, it was in Greater Salt Lake. I think it was a crown tourney, but there was an A&S competition as part of it. So I was reading through It's me reading documentation. And then the artist there, and we were having a conversation, or about to have a conversation, I think, about her work. And she'd recently moved from Caid, and so was just getting used to the idea of how Artemisian laurels were working. So yeah, the judging. I'm very judgy.
I mean, as an order, it's what we do a lot of. And it's an art in and of itself, less of a science than an art, how to deliver the right kind of information to people to evaluate their work without being cruel or unsupportive. But that's a soft skill that not everybody has. And so, it's one of the reasons I really value the fact that we judge generally as panels, so that there's people to balance each other, and how important that is. So
I remember with this jacket, that expression on my face was communicating, this is not mine. I want this to be mine. I really want this to be mine. I like this.
That's great. And it looks like you're in maybe an elementary school library.
I think we were. It may have been, no, it had to have been an elementary school library.
Just looking at the counter.
Yes.
Looks like a checkout desk. I mean, that's the thing. ANS and schools go together really well. So
I hosted more than one in the school that I was teaching at.
Yep.
And this is just one of those moments. Here I am judging with Leah, who, again, just one of my models, one of the people that I aspire to be as amazing as. And so it doesn't matter that I'm a Duchess and I'm a Laurel and I'm a Pelican. I'm working with Leia. That's just like, yes, I can work with Leia. Yeah. And she's just such a wonderful human.
Leia she's such an amazing human being. She really is. Like, I have a hard time putting into words how much like respect and adoration I have for Leia. It's amazing.
Exactly. There just aren't words. And so here I am, and I get to work with her. But like, you look around, the other people in this picture, just behind me is Sarah, and T's the one who did that skirt, is next to her, I think. Marlene is over there. Just, it's there's just there are a lot of really awesome people in Artemisia. I'll just leave it there.
Oops, sorry. I have questions about this.
Yes. I use my skills for both good and evil, and I'm not sure which this is. I made these costumes. I've made costumes for the school play a couple of times, but this was the Donna and the Dinettes from Mamma Mia. I had no patterns. I just took measurements and made bodysuits for teenagers. I've got to tell you that these guys were really good sports, but we had some of the most uncomfortable moments in high school history getting these things fit.
They're remarkable.
And they all got stolen. Every one of them.
Stolen or repurposed in someone's personal collection.
Taken home by the artist. Well, by the
Army
wearers.
speak, we call that acquiring. We acquired
Yes,
it.
they were all acquired.
They are quite something. I love it.
Oh, well, and all of those kids are also quite something.
That is just such a vastly different experience from what I had in high school.
This is totally my high school experience. I was a music theater kid, so and this is my natural habitat up till about a year ago. My chemistry classroom, model of an atom, plum pudding model of an atom back there behind me. I still have that. At my desk late at night, the janitor's wondering what I am still doing there. that was just how that worked. I so miss my classroom. I miss being a teacher.
Yeah.
And my chairs. So Philippe made me these chairs. I haven't seen Philippe in probably close to a decade, but he made these chairs and they are fabulous. And they've been used as thrones. They've been used as many things, but they are awesome for napping, especially if you're wearing a bum roll. The bum roll makes all the difference. But yes, there I am sunbathing. Looks like probably at Raptor War. In my wonderful, wonderful chair. I love that chair.
So the comic book or the comic, wow, I am struggling. The captions that were generating up were hiding one of the legs underneath there on my screen. So it just looked like you were legitimately hovering for a second for me.
She's a witch.
Which,
So at Penzic, Duke Fleeg came over because we were walking across the field or something, and he I'm wearing hoops, and he lifts up my skirt, and he's like, I just had to make sure you had feet, because he said, I'd never seen anyone float across the field quite like that. I'm like,
Oh,
he's a darling human.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is me and Janet, who's one of my apprentices. That was just such a wonderful day. There's a site in Provo, and it's actually at the mental hospital, but it's built on this great lawn, and it has a castle, and it's great for castle battles. But it has this huge lawn, and so it's great for archery. And the archery community in Loch Solon is just, again, full of wonderful human beings. And Janet and her husband Bjorn did a lot of archery and reared, and they let me come and shoot and let me borrow bows and arrows and an arm guard. And archery is one of those things that if I had time, I would do it. I've always wanted to do archery in the SCA, and they just let me come and have a lovely archery day. And it was such a beautiful day, and it's such a beautiful site that is still just one of my favorite days in the SCA and being queen. I think that was also the day that we first got someone who turned into an amazing herald. I said, I want you to be my herald today. And he's like, what? I'm like, nope, you're going to be my herald today. And he turned into a fabulous herald. He's wonderful. Bacon is great.
I love bacon.
All right, so this is Jude. This is the company of St. Jude. And we're not a household per se, but we're kind of a household. And so this is my Artemisian family. My Antier friends are going to notice Mistress Agnes, Baroness Agnes, because she is my Antier travel buddy. And we like to go tromping around the countryside together. But these are the ladies of Jude, and then, Conrad, because he's awesome. And it's just, again, such an amazing crew of laurels and pelicans, and many people who have stood as baronages. And I have to say that I so respect anyone who has been a territorial baron or baroness, because that's a big job. And several of the people in this picture have taken that. In addition, several of the people in this picture have been Kingdom Seneschal, Kingdom Exchequer. There's just so much service and art and joy of the game in the people in this picture. They're all really, really dear. Yeah. This is the picture that hung on my classroom door. That gauntlet was a prize. So first reign, we had a prize for, I don't remember what, but I'm pretty sure Fluffy Sir Hrothgar won it. It had something to do with going to the most places and fighting, I think. And so there was one brass gauntlet, but I would put it on in court and I would go grr, because that first reign, at least part of it, I was playing Queenie Pooh most of the time, and Blackadder's awesome. We had a lot of entertainment with the arrival of Queenie Pooh when she decided to come out of court. And this is the terrifying moment when the Kingdom Exchequer is about to become crown princess. It's not a good look. Not a good look at all. I had just gotten, because in Artemisia, the crown tournament's only about a month after coronation. And I had just, in my new job as Kingdom Exchequer, gotten the crown to sign the paperwork so that they could actually have things like the crowns and the thrones and all of the regalia that goes with the office. And I'd just gotten all of that paperwork signed. And there's a ceremony that happens in Artemisia for the final fight, where the ladies of the rose collect rose petals, and we put them in this box, and then we spread the rose petals out around the field to symbolize all of the ladies, and the work of the roses in the success of a kingdom. And I was not supposed to be the one who came out on top that day. So I was Kingdom Exchequer for like 3 weeks, and then I was crown princess. And then Sumaya, who, bless that woman, all the blessings to this woman, not this kind, took it back for 11 months, which is how long an Artemisian full term is. So I got it back upon stepping down, but that wasn't nice. And this is Timmy. Timmy is my partner in life. He's my cat, obviously. And he's helping me at work in both of these pictures. That first one is like, Mama, it might be time to stand up. Mama, this is my keyboard. You can't have it back until you do something else. And then obviously there's something interesting in the tree outside. So Timmy is always keeping me entertained and keeping my lap warm and giving me good purrs and shedding.
I was just going to say black and white cats are the most efficient, because you can always be assured that their hair will show up on whatever it is that you're wearing.
Everything.
Yeah.
And Timmy is a triple coated cat, so he has this fine frizzy undercoat that must be brushed out, but will also stick to anything.
Yeah. And does he like to pose on velvet?
Oh, he loves velvet.
Yeah, velvet's a favorite with cats, and it's like, because they know it's almost impossible to get their hair out of velvet, especially like really good, like high quality thick velvet, and it's like you kind of have to get a pair of tweezers and start pulling individual hairs out at some point. So
he's also a really big fan of
fabric catnip.
What was that, Joel?
So is it like a fabric catnip, basically? Like they see and they just can't resist it, and they.
I think they just know they look beautiful on it.
Yes.
That's fair.
So
and it's hard to tell, but Timmy is a relatively large cat. He's not fat, but he's about 18 pounds. He's just big. He's a big cat.
All 3 of my dogs weigh less than your cat. Just saying.
They can probably still take Timmy. He's very timid.
Okay.
He doesn't trust people. The truffling. So this year I made, Kaya knows, 30 some odd flavors of truffles.
Wow.
And I've been doing this since 1997. There was a recipe in the Plain Dealer when I lived in Cleveland, and I thought, oh, this sounds fun. I'm going to try this. And I don't really think that we can describe what's happened since then with actual words. Um, I I started only knowing 2 flavors. I could make orange and raspberry, and I've gotten creative since then. So like I've done lemon lavender, and I did a wasabi ginger. Every year there's huckleberry and mint, and I don't do the pistachio ones very often, but making your own pistachio marzipan, it's a thing. I've done it. And then I make a hazelnut ganache, a whipped hazelnut ganache center. I cover that with the pistachio marzipan, and then I cover that in yet more chocolate, and then I roll it in more pistachios.
Can I
I
try
call
one
it
of
golf
those
balls.
sometime? I want to try one of those. That one. I want to try
They
one.
they take 2 days.
Just, I want one. I don't
You
care.
want one?
I just need
All right,
one.
well, the next time I make pistachio ones, I will make sure to save some for you.
I
I
feel so
love,
left out. Like I need some of this in my life.
I love everything about that. I don't think there's enough hazelnut plus chocolate anything in the world. And you added in any kind of marzipan, which is like my little like heart spent as a child in Germany is very enamored with all of that. So sounds really good.
So this year I did 2 that involved actual marzipan. One was an amaretto one that had a marzipan center, and then I also just do a honey marzipan one where I do the honey and the marzipan and I melt it all in with chocolate and then cover it with more chocolate.
How do you not make these look like boobs? Because that's the only thing. I would not be able to not do that. That's a double
Some
negative.
of them do. I mean, there is an art to the rolling and the hand dipping. And I just do dipped ones. I don't do molded ones. I worked in a chocolate factory for one summer, and molded just doesn't feel right to me.
Is it like that scene in I Love Lucy?
Yes.
Yeah.
We were actually allowed to eat as many as we wanted. And that lasted for about 1 day. And then you never, ever, ever want to see or smell a chocolate again.
I can imagine.
It took me like 10 years to recover. And now look at me. It's the people who've experienced the truffling know that I'm a certain kind of crazy.
I mean, there was no doubt, but this just confirms it for everybody who wasn't sure. All right, that is the end of our slides. I love that we're ending on that. And you like how I'm like not even a little bit shy about just asserting that, yes, I will have one of these. You know, I'll just steal it from somebody else if I have to, or we can do this on the secondary truffle market maybe.
You know, I've sold truffles once. It wasn't worth it. People keep telling me that my next job should be that I just open a chocolate shop. I'm like,
No.
I've done a lot of donating them for like goods and services auctions.
Yeah. I'll make a donation in exchange for truffles. There you go. You can give them to people and have them make donations to causes that you care about.
I just want truffles. I'll give money to causes or pockets or whatever. I just want truffles, please.
You just want truffles, please. Well, you know, I have to make some truffles here soon because I did actually put some in a goods and services auction that was happening next week. So we'll see what kind they want.
Well, I had a really good racket going for a long time because people didn't realize that my spouse is allergic to chocolate. And we would get chocolate, you know, at the holidays or whatever. And then finally, you know, bit by bit, it became known that when we received chocolate, it was me, that I would get all the chocolate. And my cover was blown, but it was a great deal for me for a long time. You know, he got any brown booze because I don't drink brown booze, and I got all the chocolate. I felt that was perfectly fair.
Seems fair.
That seems like a great exchange to me. Like, I mean,
yeah. Right?
Yeah, that's great. So I'm so focused on freaking truffles now that I'm gonna circle this back because
One of my
otherwise
goals is I'm going to figure out period chocolate. Haven't done it yet. Tried some stuff with the red wine and it, bleh.
if you need a guinea pig, I will volunteer. I will put myself up on that block for you.
Thank you.
He's a giver.
So let's we're gonna circle back because otherwise, yeah, I'm gonna keep talking about chocolate because that is just really awesome. So you've been playing for a while now. I got the eyebrow earlier for making a comment. Oh, there it is again. See. So, but you obviously you have a lot of experience as both a peer as of all varieties as a triple peer of the realm, and when you go into a vigil tent, what's the core of the advice that you like to try and impart on somebody for, no matter what periods they're about to be recognized for? What's the kind of core of the advice you like to try and impart on someone?
Well, I have a favorite, which is whatever accolade you're getting, this is not the end of the road. This is not the end of your journey. This is just the beginning of a new and different journey. You have taken a path and you have walked that path and you have worked that path and it has led you to this place. And you kind of have a couple of choices now. You can either just sit, rest on your laurels, and be the thing, or you can take it and run with it and help other people grow or continue to grow in your own peerage. I was made a pelican before I was Kingdom Exchequer. The service doesn't stop because I got a pelican. I've learned a lot since I got a laurel, because the art doesn't stop just because I got a laurel. And Lady of the Roses is forever, but there are things that roses do, and you continue, you support the rapier community, you support the arts, you support your kingdom and your people, and you are part of the heart of your kingdom. And you, in my game, sometimes I choose to step back and just rest because I've played really hard for the last 20 years or so. But as part of that, I got a whole bunch of accolades, and then I kept playing really hard. So there's times to rest and there's times to keep on going. But I always hope that people will choose not to just stop once they get an award, because like I tell people, I've won the game. I've won the SCA. I'm not getting any more awards. I've got all the awards I'm going to get, and that's okay. That doesn't mean it's over.
That's great, and I think one of the most common things I hear from any of my friends is that it's always best when you see people like keep going, but that it always seems like they got recognized when they stopped caring about if they were recognized or not, and so then then you just keep playing because you love this silly game, or what do you call it, your Grace Dagmar, dress a fancy cocktail party in a
Fancy
pasture?
dress cocktail party in a cow pasture.
Yep.
That's the SBA.
So many of those. So in fact, like I've hosted some of those in your kingdom.
Anybody who says it's anything else needs to sit back and find their inner cocktail party again. And it doesn't have to be an alcoholic party. It can be a tea party. Yours can be a fancy dress tea party in a cow pasture. Whatever kind of party it is, that's what it is.
It's fancy dress in a cow pasture.
It's fancy dress in a cow pasture. So agreed. But also there's the kind of the bigger philosophical question of how can we both maintain that sense of fun and lightheartedness about what we do, and also recognize that it is profoundly important to people, and that I would never make light of somebody's path or desire to be a better person than they have been. And that's something we all should aspire to do. We should all aspire to be better than we were yesterday or last year or whatever, irrespective of our rank or peerage or privilege.
Yeah. I know that some people don't agree with me, but I can be kind of irreverent about my duchy, and take off the coronet and just go rogue, and wander around, and because I don't have that expectation of, oh, don't you know who I am? Thou shalt bow before me. I'm like, who cares? My my duchy and $5 will still get me coffee. It's an accolade, and in many ways I've earned it, and I would never take away from anyone else who has also earned it. But I guess I don't take myself so seriously. That sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm a duchess. It's great. It doesn't make me super, super special.
Well, and you have a choice about how forward you want to be with that. There's a conversation occurring on one of the lists I'm on about how in the peerages that are more associated with feminine energy, if you will, so being a woman royal peer or being a laurel or pelican, where historically those peerages have been overwhelmingly women who are elevated, how there can be pressure to be more humble about your ranks and to be less forward about the things that you've done to earn those ranks or your aspirations to become a pelican or a laurel. And I think it's actually perfectly fine to have the ambition to become queen or princess, not by your own hand. I think it's perfectly fine, especially since there's lots of pathways to becoming queen or princess that do not involve having a partner who is a romantic partner. And it is absolutely okay with me for somebody to say, I would really like to be queen someday, and I want to figure out how to do that. Like, how can I be a person who is in the right place at the right time to meet the right fighter and can have a partnership with somebody that would be really meaningful, where we can both work on this together. There is nothing wrong with that. And there has been this kind of sort of sexism applied to this situation where a knight or a fighter can say, I want to be a knight and I want to be king. And nobody thinks anything of that. By saying it's not okay to say you want to be queen, I mean, the implication is that it's not work to become queen. And the reality is it is work. Even if all you have to do is make sure that your fighter is taken care of, that's still a lot. But often there is a lot of work, and certainly there's a huge amount of work that happens once you reign, and there's a huge amount of work that happens afterwards. And whether somebody chooses to use their title or not is up to them. It is up to them. So it is not fault. It is not any kind of immodesty to use your title. But if you don't choose to, like Esabell, that is completely fine. You don't have to use it, and that's your choice. And there shouldn't be any pressure for you to take it more seriously than you do. So,
and one of the things, like, and it kind of comes up a lot with actually like the names, like I know Esabell and I know her, and we've had great conversations, but I've always just called her Your Grace, because part of my game is recognizing someone else's rank that they have earned. And this whole show kind of came from the idea of a future consort being able to watch the gathered experience of people who have reigned before, and what their experiences are like, what makes them love the SCA still and everything. So like, but like that, that recognizing someone's work and what they've put into it by addressing them by their titles is just, it's part of what I enjoy about the SCA. It's not like, I don't think that I have to address Esabell as Her Grace every time I talk to her, or Duchess, or whatever, but it's just, that's my SCA. That's how I enjoy it, is by respecting the work that's come in, because, I know I haven't won a crown yet. Hopefully someday I will, but I feel so bad for my consort because she is going to have to like put in so much work to keep me out of trouble. That is,
Well, Joel, that's why it's good that you have so many friends who are so much older than you.
I'm never
All
going to
these,
live that down.
nope,
Oh no.
no, I'm not.
Oh no.
I'm not. You and Ashaxi's husband, Octomisades, are now in a very special club that will um, membership to, and I will tell you that story another time. I'm going to move back to our guest. So I do have a question about rank and privilege, because it's something I really enjoy hearing from our guests about, and that is, how do you see your rank and privilege in the SCA? Privilege as a peer, privilege as a white woman, privilege as a person with the educational attainment you have or the income you have, whatever it is. How do you see yourself using privilege in the SCA in ways that is helpful for others? Or what do you like to encourage people to be aware of or to do to make the SCA more inclusive?
It's funny because I sit in a very, very privileged world, and I know it. And during that first reign, I gave a lot of what some people thought were pretty extravagant gifts, because I could. And there was I worked 6 reigns in a row as a lady in waiting, and for one of them, I did a lot of extravagant gifts for the crown because I could. And since then, I kind of got I got pushback from people saying that I shouldn't give such extravagant gifts. I'm like, okay, I won't do that anymore. But like at the last Ontario West, one of my friends needed ties for a doublet, and I finger loop braid because finger loop braiding makes me happy. And so I just braided up a bunch of silk ties for him. And people would consider those silk ties kind of, and the time it took to make them, an important gift. But it's like this is a thing that it's easy for me to provide for you. I feel like that as so I have been exchequering and exchequery, and another miracle of St. Esabell is the troll table that never closes, because I would set it up in the car and I would just sleep at gate. And that for me was a gift of time to other people. I didn't have people help with gate so that I could give them the gift of time to do other things at the event, especially when I'd won the game and I'm like, yeah, I could go shoot archery, that would be really fun, but you're much newer and this is still much more magic for you, so I'm going to sit here and take care of the money and you go have magic. And so I think that's been a path that I've taken a lot, is I'll handle these details and I'll handle this work, you go do your magic. One of the things, and I think that this is why Inga likes me, is at Ontario West, there used to be a big party after court, and there were people trying to get the party set up, and I'm like, go to court, it'll be here when you get back. And they got back and there were tables set up and tablecloths and food was set up and booze was set up and we had bartenders, and Artemisia had just taken over, and people had brought food, and I'm like, great, drop it off, go to court. But it was something I didn't care kind of horrible thing to say. I didn't know anyone in court, but this was a thing that I could do so that people who did know people in court could be there, and be there for their friends to be recognized. So a big piece of what I do is I do work so that other people can have fun.
I appreciate one of the things that you're talking about, which is an act of service or a gift may not always be difficult for someone to provide, and its value may be seen as greater by the recipient than the effort that it required to produce it for the giver. And that includes time. Some people have few pressures on their time. Other people, maybe it's costing them time from work or time from their children or time, whatever it is that they need. And that looking past just the act and looking at what the true cost is to the person is part of how equity is approached. You know, we need to be aware that for you to sit gate for a couple of hours, it costs you, sure, but you may feel like it's a better use of your time than somebody for whom it would mean they can't take care of their kids, for example, or whatever it is, you know, and to not second guess someone when they say, no, I can afford this. I can afford this time, or I can afford this gift, or I can afford to make this for you. I have the ability. It's not going to hurt my hands. It's not going to cost me as much. And to be really aware that that may not be true for someone else just because it was true for you, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really important.
Let's go to a light question.
That was a light question. What are you talking about, Joel?
That's fair. All right. So you are now Supreme Empress of all SCA. You can snap any award into existence with no political fallout, no need for panels, board, bot approval, anything. Any award you want, you can create that award instantly.
Like that. This is
Snap
hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
I get that.
What would that award be, and why would you give it to Joel?
Oh, or not give it to Joel. Why would you not give it to Joel? That is also a good question.
I think I'd give it to Joel's wife.
Patience of the Saints.
She's lovely. She had this really cool coat the last time I saw her too. It was just awesome.
Oh, she's making all sorts of new stuff, but that's not the question. Sorry.
Oh. There's so many options. So this is kind of a horrible answer, but it's that you have learned some cool stuff and you have tried really, really hard. And for whatever reason, your resources haven't allowed you to do the thing you really want to do. So here's your prize of, I have some resource here, make the thing that you really want to make, because I saw how much you've learned and how hard you tried and how you were thwarted by not having the right resource to do the thing you needed to do.
It's like a scholarship. It's a grant.
Yeah, it's like a road.
Like my name.
Hey, there we go.
I love it.
But
it would
It's
be
the
like
grant award.
a fellowship to do the thing. I love
Grant
that.
to do the thing.
We should totally do that. Let's make that happen.
A good one.
Let's get people to invest. We could manage it as an investment, use the proceeds to fund people's dream projects. I love this idea. We should do it.
Yes, and I will buy truffles.
But I love it. Like, I think it would be really cool if people could apply for a $500 grant.
Yeah.
And that money was earmarked for whatever it was that they wanted to do, whether it was travel or it was a specific artifact they wanted to recreate, or it was a book that's out of print that they wanted to try and get back in circulation or whatever it is. I think that would be incredibly cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
You prefaced that with saying it was going to be that was a horrible, like
That's a great idea.
That's an awesome idea. So
But it also comes kind of like, it comes from a place of like, there's a place of generosity, but some people could interpret it as coming from a really privileged spot where you're like, oh, well, you tried, but you didn't have the right stuff, so you didn't quite make it. So like, I would never want to insult somebody's effort or their research or anything. I would, that would come, for me, it's coming from a completely supportive here. I want to help you do the thing you're dreaming of doing. But I could also see where people could take it in a negative way.
Yeah, I think you can't please everybody when you do something like that. I think the way there could be ways to communicate it. I mean, I have to say, we've heard a lot of answers to this question, and this is the first time I'm like, that's something we could really do. Like, I wouldn't necessarily want to do it as part of an official SCA fund, but I could see doing some kind of a dream fund to think about this from an equity standpoint, that there's people that, the SCA is so expensive, that if they want to do something that's really going to lift all of our knowledge of something, even if they fail at it, it still would be incredibly interesting. And maybe a requirement could be a presentation that sort of shows off the way that they used the grant. I think it would be very cool.
That's a good idea. We should talk more. I like that. I like that idea. I really
we can talk more about that idea.
All right.
So
you heard it here first, folks. Live on Grace Under Pressure.
Grace Under Pressure Scholarship Grant. Sorry, no, that was a horrible name. We'll find.
I've been a professional fundraiser for like the last 15 years. This is not, this is my thing. I think this would be fantastic. So.
As a career member of a very large spending federal agency, I'm probably not the best person to put in charge of that, because like there's a huge amount of Jesus take the wheel with our funding. So, we're going to move on before I accidentally say something offensive here. So you spoke in kind of depth earlier about Uprising, which was the Artemisian not kingdom event, which I fully admit, even with my time in Artemisia and Netherlands, I never made it to an Uprising. I moved into Kingdom during the whole 50-year.
Oh yeah, that was a mess.
And then it just
yeah.
After that, with other event travel schedule, things like that, I was never able to make it. But what is your favorite out of Kingdom event to go to?
Ontier West, come on. I don't even have to think about it.
It says something that you call it Ontier West and not West Ontier, because they reverse it depending on which kingdom you're in, because I've lived in both kingdoms now.
I've only ever heard it called Ontier West, but
it's called West Ontier in the West.
Well, so what is your SCA bucket list event? One event that you want to go to so bad, but you have not been able to make it to yet?
Oh, probably Gulf Wars.
Oh, Gulf Wars. Yeah, I talk up Gulf Wars every time.
Like I've been to a couple of Penzics. I've been to some big birthdays. So I was at 50 year. I was at Lanny in 10th year. That was a fun event. I've been to a variety of Kingdom birthdays, Potrero. I haven't been to Great Western, but I'd rather go to Gulf.
Yeah, Gulf is amazing. Great Western is it's an amazing event too. I mean, both of them are held basically in parks where you can walk around without shoes on and rolling grass. I mean, don't actually do that. That's gross. But, but like they're both amazing events for different reasons. And I've had a lot of fun at both. So
and Lily's, maybe I'd kind of like to go to Lily's.
I haven't been to a Lily's either. I'm a horrible Calentary.
You haven't been there very long, Joel.
Yeah, I mean, I moved in during the age of the plagues,
That's
so
right.
Yeah.
It's a completely undiscovered world for you, and we look forward to hearing all about your experiences there.
It's gonna be so much fun.
So, Esabell, have you guys been up for Sport of Kings? You have, haven't you?
I have yet to make it up for Sport of Kings, and it's always on my birthday.
Well, we would be happy to have a birthday party for you at Sport of Kings if you can make it up some year. You just let me know. I will make that
Now
happen.
that I'm not teaching anymore, because it was also the first week of school.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, because school starts here. This year it started on the 17th.
Right.
And so
And
we
as we
start in the
already
middle of August.
discussed, the Pacific Northwest, our agricultural calendar is moved forward by a good month or more from other parts of the country. So typically schools don't start here till after Labor Day. So we have this whole, extra period of time in late August when it's actually nice here. So,
Well, and now that I don't have that job anymore, now that technically I have less of a lot less prescribed schedule.
Yep.
Now Sport of Kings is more of a, I can actually just take that time off and grab Agnes and drive over.
It's a great event.
Drive over and then
Yep.
pick up Agnes at the airport, which is how we do that most of the time.
There you go. It's a great event. And, I think that there's probably a need for more of those kinds of events across all of the kingdoms, like events where it's not a crown, it's not a war, it's not strictly in arts and sciences. It has a little of everything. But I think one of the things that makes Sport of Kings really special is that there's a kitchen and you can buy food. And so right. So you don't have to bring a kitchen with you or buy into an individual household's food plan unless you want to. And it makes it very enjoyable because everybody kind of socializes around the Virgin Countess, which is what it's called, and gathers kind of in that area so that all the fighters and everybody's there. It's very cool. So if that's not on your bucket list, it should be, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes, I'm feeling this. This seems like fun.
So
yeah, and that is one that I've always kind of been like, I can't leave town this weekend because if I leave town this weekend, my boss will kill me.
Well, I'm sorry for your students that you're in more of an admin role across the state now, but I'm not sad that we might get to see you at Sport of Kings. So before we move into our final questions, I did want to mention that an acquaintance named Pasha is asking why they have never been blessed in the comments.
Pasha, I don't know that you've ever deserved a solid blessing. Those Kennison girls.
Everybody has a different love language. So,
If Pasha really wants to apply forehead the next time she sees me, which will most likely be at Gulf Wars, unless she comes to visit, she can apply forehead.
Okay.
I feel like after all these interviews, I'm either going to get hugged a lot or just like blessed a lot by a lot of different people and I think it's going to be like a 50-50 shot on which one it is. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, Joel, if I'm like really nice to you, it's either because I feel sorry for you or because I've decided you don't exist. Oh, so just keep that in mind. I'm like really just very polite and very sweet to you. There's a good chance that that's why. So it's not always a good thing, I guess is what I'm saying. So on that note, as we draw to a close, I'd love to ask you what keeps you going in the SCA. You talked a little bit about it earlier because like you've won the SCA, but what keeps you going? A lot of people say it's the people, but can you think of something a little more detailed than just your friends? Is there something else about it that still really continues to inspire you?
There's always something new to learn. Somebody has always found something new, cool. Like, I am gonna do an early period persona. I'm gonna do it because I haven't done that yet. I've been late period my entire game. Like the earliest was a portrait to garb that I did for 1504. That's as early as I've done. So okay, I guess Margaret of Scotland in 1485, but 20 years. So like I've been slowly collecting my little bits and pieces to do a Viking. I just got turtle brooches, so I'm super excited, and an ear spoon. And so there's opportunities to reinvent, and there's always so much more. There's so much more to learn and so much more to do. So yes, it's my friends and my buddies, but there's always more.
Yeah, I agree.
The rabbit hole. We're always chasing the rabbit hole, right?
There's always another rabbit hole too.
Oh man.
You should be chasing the rabbit, not the hole, Joel, but
Hey, I don't tell you how to live your life.
you go don't go chasing rabbit holes. Hey Joel, you gotta bless your heart in the comments.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, bless me. Oh, thank you, whoever said that. I appreciate you. You're my new friend, whoever it was. So the SCA has kind of fundamentally changed over the last year or so. And Artemisia has been really like one of the most active kingdoms as far as holding virtual events. It seems like every other weekend there's a virtual event of some kind going on. We've had quite a few Artemisians on the show, but it seems like Artemisians and Antirans are really out front as far as creating the virtual content. What do you see the SCA being like though once the pandemic is, once we're on the other side of it, at the end of the rainbow, so to speak, the horrible COVID rainbow? Do you think the virtual content is going to continue to be as important? Is it going to be as important to you?
So to be 100% honest, I have had a rough time with virtual events. I watch, but it's like watching TV. I've had trouble participating. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to in-person events. But I think things like this, things that bring people from all over the country together, things that allow people to see outside their area. One of the things in Artemisia that because I've played in a lot of different kingdoms, one of the things when I came back to Artemisia, I was always like, I wish you guys could see this thing that's in Antir, or this way they did this thing in Outlands, or how we always had dance practice at fighter practice in Cleveland. And like, I think that there's huge value in helping people get outside their area. And I think that that's a value that the virtual world has that is something that we should and can hopefully take forward, is opening everyone's eyes to it's more than just your local shire or barony or even kingdom, that we are a large worldwide organization and there's amazing things in all the corners.
Yeah, and I think, and I think I've said it before, but I think the best thing to come out of the whole pandemic is that the virtual content's really made the SCA world smaller, where we're able to reach out to more people and see more work. And someone had messaged me from, actually, I think it was last week's episode, where I was kind of dorking out over one of my research projects, and or it might have been the week before, but they messaged me asking what it was, and we were able to mutually dork out over this really obscure little medieval factoid thing, because anyone that knows me knows that I love my research rabbit holes. That's kind of my thing, is I just dive down into this. So I think that's been the good thing to come out of a horrible pandemic, sunny side, and all that. Eh, maybe. Dag, bail me out here, please.
I agree, but I think also from an equity standpoint, you know, by putting things online for people that may not be able to, for whatever reason, be it mobility or flexibility, it's their job, it's their finances, it's their family, it's a disability, whatever reasons they may have for not being able to attend events in person, we have created pathways for people to participate. And I hope we can continue to think about that, think about it through that lens that, you know, maybe we don't need to have peerage meetings that only happen in person, or maybe we don't need to be as concerned with the level of travel someone is doing as much as the level of impact they're having, as we're considering them for elevation or whatever whatever it is that we're looking at. But also if in terms of dissemination, making sure that the information gets pushed out to people that, you know, in a way that's useful to them.
Yeah, we made a really controversial Laurel. She is an amazing weaver, just amazing. And she would teach anyone who she could find, but she lived in the middle of nowhere and was closer to North Shield than anything else in Artemisia, but she lived in Artemisia. And we made her a Laurel because she had the arts and she was doing the teaching, but if she had had an online opportunity, and this was 10 years ago, so it was, online opportunities were not as there. No one would have questioned us,
Right?
Because she had the art, she had the knowledge, and she was there sharing it. So I totally agree that there are opportunities available in our virtual world that we should really latch onto and leverage for the better of everybody.
Well, I think that is a wonderful place to close, but we're not really closing because in the great tradition of the gift basket exchanges that occur between crowns, we're going to pretend that we are sitting in state and having a mighty basket delivered to you. It is a virtual basket, which means we can put anything on earth into this basket because you're not actually going to receive it. So we can do it however we want. So
I still love my on-tier basket stuff.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
The best stool ever.
Fantastic. So exactly. But this is virtual. Okay. As Joel just said, this basket has no handles because handles on baskets are dumb and they make it so you can't pack them in your car. So I always make sure that there are no handles on these baskets, or it can be an alternative vessel. It could be
man bags are good.
It could be a bag. It could be a giant bread bowl. It can be whatever you want. So that vessel is being handed to you. And in it, I would have already asked your people, or my people to ask your people, what your preferences were. So we didn't give you anything that was poison for you. So I have a few questions. Red or white wine?
Red.
Red wine. Okay. Milk chocolate or dark chocolate?
Dark.
Dark chocolate. Okay. And puppies or kittens?
Kittens.
Okay. So this is what is going to be in your basket. First of all, I realize that you live in the great wine state of Idaho. Yeah. But I think we'll find you something pleasant from the Washington wine valleys. Maybe I like to give blends because you can drink them with anything. And there's some really great ones. You know, something nice that you're not afraid to open for a casual dinner. You know, it's not too nice, just right. So that if it breaks on your way home, you're not devastated. You know, you have to think about these things. So, yeah. We have wonderful chocolates in Seattle, and I think some nice Theo chocolates. And maybe I'd also slip in like a little gift card for when you and yours are next in Seattle to go on a tour of the factory, which is a really fun experience to do too. It's just a little tiny craft factory in Seattle. And then for the kittens, we're not going to give you kittens because you shouldn't give pets away in baskets. But but this is an opportunity for you to be in a room with a litter of kittens that can just crawl all over you. You're going to be wearing clothes that will not snag, and you get to just like enjoy that thoroughly, and then let your cat figure out where all that kitten smell came from, which I think would be pretty fun. So that's more of an experience. And then I would like you to have a time turner, like from the Harry Potter franchise, so that you can both teach and do your current role at the same time, because you miss teaching. And you can sit gate and do archery, and you can attend Sport of Kings, even if you have birthday plans elsewhere. It'll allow you to just be in many places at the same time, which seems like something you could manage extraordinarily well without going insane.
Awesome.
And then
that.
And then this won't be in the basket, but we're going to start just mailing you lots and lots and lots of pamphlets for 55 plus communities in Washington and Oregon, so that you can just start thinking about it.
I'm almost there.
Yeah. So.
Wow. That's a hell of a gift basket.
It's a good gift basket.
It really is. That is
know,
like, wow.
And what I'm going to
include is
I'm going to include like a 5-gallon bucket of pearls that you just like, but they're all pre-drilled, and you can just like snap them, and they automatically sew onto the fabric in the pattern you want.
That's so good. That's so good.
So,
I would like that too, Joel.
I have a
rolled out on me.
She's nicer to me than you.
A serious pearl problem, though.
And for anyone watching from home, that's something I'm going to regret saying for a couple weeks. So,
I mean, that would imply that you have shame, and you've already established that you don't have any. So, you know.
All right, you got me on that one.
Well, thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. It's been an awesome time. And we have to figure out the grant.
Yeah, we need to do this.
Yeah, that needs to be a thing, I think. And but Your Grace, thank you so much for joining us this week. This was just a ridiculous amount of fun, and you know we miss you guys so much, and we'll be visiting as soon as it's safe to be able to do such things. For everybody watching from home, thank you so much for joining us. You know, we always appreciate all your time and your comments and chipping in, and you know, we love you. Next week we'll be joined by Duchess Patricia Blakethorn of the West, and the normal qualifiers are all going to come out here real quick. So wear your mask, believe in science. We love you. Renew your membership. Can't have an SCA if we don't support you all. So thank you everyone again, and we will see you next week. Bye.